Well, I can't say anything shocking came out of last night. Good morning, 6:05. It is great to be here on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Just download that in your app store as we get it rolling on a Hump Day Wednesday. So Kansas City voters went to the polls yesterday, and they said, take more of my money. Most notably, that comes courtesy of a property tax increase from the voters to go ahead and give the Kansas City Public School District about $500 million in a general obligation bond. And it passed by a wide margin, 84% to 16%, not even close. That is a monster spread. And what does this do? Well, if you are a homeowner in the school district and you have a property valued at $200,000, you would see a tax increase on your property taxes of about $19 a month. So that's, give or take $225 a year or so. And, listen, if you're in a $200,000 house, there are homes that cost a lot more than that, obviously. But theoretically, that's someone who's going to feel a $200 property tax increase. Now, a commercial property valued at $200,000 would see about a $400 a year increase in their taxes. So the commercial property's taking on the brunt of it. But either way, it's a pretty big property tax hike that Kansas City public school voters voted for yesterday by a very wide margin. But there was no side of this. All you saw was rallies on the yes side. So I can't say I'm surprised by that. Patrick Toohey of the Show Me Institute wrote like one piece against it in the Kansas City Star, which was read by their 5 readers, and that's kind of it. Nobody else was on the no side. So we knew this was going to pass. Is giving the Kansas City, Missouri Public School District more money the answer to solve their woes? No. Some will argue that it gives them a good learning environment. So that passed last night. And then, as we also expected, the public safety tax extension passed last night as well. This was not a sales increase. This was just an extension of a quarter-cent sales tax that was already in place. And about $250 million of this extension will be used to build a new jail. And this passed 60-40, so a 20-point win there on this extension of the public safety tax. You had some of the wokest of the woke groups in Kansas City come out against this. And I know some of you were against it as well, saying, hey, there was nothing in the ballot language that guaranteed this had to be used for a jail. I understand that. I do. And I'll ask the mayor about that tomorrow. I'll say, what are you going to do today to make sure that this money gets used for a public safety measure like a jail? I'll ask him that question when he's on tomorrow. But I will say, for the last 20 years, the money from this tax has been used for public safety infrastructure. So as much as I know many of us would not trust some on this city council as far as we could throw them, the history is there to suggest that the money has been used for the right reasons over the years. And if you go around the Missouri side of the metro, basically everything passed when it comes to more bonds for schools, more money for schools, everything seemingly passed. And I saw the Platte County turnout was something like, I don't know. I saw this morning from somebody on social media. The Platte County turnout was like 10%. And there will be tax increases up there in those school districts in Platte County. 16% of registered voters in Platte County. For comparison, in November, for, of course, the presidential election, it was 81%. That's insane. 65% drop in voter participation, or more than that, but just 81% down to 16% drop in voter participation for these elections that, listen, trust me, I'm going to talk about Trump a lot. There's a lot happening right now, but these people on these school boards, these tax dollars that you will now have to pay, these are increases that you will feel arguably more than anything happening in Washington, D.C., but I'm just not going to sit here and beat the dead horse about it. I mean, how many times can we say these local elections matter? These individuals arguably matter more than whoever's in the White House. and no one shows up to vote for these things. So the only thing I've got to say about that is if you don't vote, you can't complain. We got a deal? We're all on the same page here? If you don't vote, you can't complain. That's it. But the turnout was what we expected yesterday. That's not good. And that's just disappointing, all in all. But I know many of you were out there actively voting, trying to get people engaged yesterday in these local elections. And if you're a fan of more taxes, well, you know what? You got exactly what you wanted yesterday in a lot of these local races. Now, federally, there is a lot happening. Woke up this morning and there was just so much news a couple hours ago, I couldn't keep up. I was doing my best to keep up. But what you see happening right now, of course, is a trade war that is increasing between the United States and China. And what was happening during the overnight hours is that the Chinese Communist Party was dumping 10-year treasuries. And that is going to make for a fascinating day when it comes to Wall Street and also at the Federal Reserve. So yesterday, the markets ended up down. Remember, we started the show here. Markets open up about 8:30. Everything's in the green. It looks like there's a big bump going on. And by the end of the day, everything was down. Now, the sell-off is continuing. And it's why when things were up yesterday morning, I'm like, okay, if you like Trump, you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and say on one hand, you know, we got to have some stock market pain. It's not a sign of the real economy anyway. We're playing the long game here. And then at lunchtime be like, whoa, it's all in the green. Stocks are up. This is great. Woo! Like, you can't have it both ways. You got to stay in that one lane and not roll with the ebbs and the flows of the stock market. Because by the time we got to the close at 3 o'clock yesterday, well, the Dow was off 300, NASDAQ off 330, and the S&P off 80 points. They were all down 1.5% to 2%. And now the Dow futures right now set to open up in a couple hours off 700 points. The numbers right now, that's another 2% there. So China is now going to impose an 84% tariff on U.S. goods. That is some breaking news that is just coming in here in the last few minutes. Here's what our buddy Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business, put up on X very late last night. If you're up right now, you probably were asleep for this. This was at about midnight. Charlie writes here, now stuff is getting interesting and scarily so. Wicked spike in long-dated bond yields portends an unwind of a massive trade, possibly a hedge fund losing money and imploding, or a major foreign creditor dumping treasuries in retaliation to Trump's trade war, none of which are good. I'm sure Secretary Scott Bessent's phone is ringing off the hook right about now. Buckle up for the open. That was Charlie Gasparino last night. And it came hours after Donald Trump was speaking to the NRCC. And the NRCC, I always forget the acronym for this. The NRCC is the National Republican Congressional Committee. Trump's given him a speech last night, and he certainly didn't sound like a guy who was backing off his game plan here on these tariffs anytime soon.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us. They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
And they stole our intellectual property as well. That's what they're doing. And that is just as egregious as anything else the Chinese Communist Party is doing. And I have another example of that from last night that I will share with you that you do not want to miss. And we'll talk about it next right here on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, and always streaming on a Wednesday morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Well, Guy Benson's going to be here at 8 a.m. on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, and that is because he is coming to Kansas City for an event with us, myself, Kevin Keatsman, Guy Benson. You can get your picture with Guy, meet and greet, dinner, drinks, the whole deal at Boulevard, and you can get your tickets right now at kcmotalkradio.com. We're calling it the first 147 of 47. Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. They went on sale this week, and they are selling fast. Thursday, June 12th, out at Boulevard. Going to be a great time and an event that we really have not done before here on KCMO with Fox News' Guy Benson coming to Kansas City in a couple of months. So last night, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. Gosh, this guy keeps knocking it out of the park. When I see him on cable news, I'm like, that's my man. He just makes sense. I like people that make sense. They're not trying to show off. They're not trying to be the smartest person in the room, but they're saying things that just make sense, and they are unafraid. The guy goes on CNN last night, and it's like, man, this is not the place you want to be saying some of this stuff about what Donald Trump is doing.
Fake news.
No, I know, but he goes on there, and he gives them some truth serum. And it was a joy to watch. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, on CNN last night talking about Trump and these tariffs and how he actually thinks that when it comes to China, Trump is not doing enough.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look like?
I want Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the number one economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Squeeze their heads into the wall now, he says. Now, of course, he's talking about the Chinese Communist Party regime. Kevin O'Leary, squeeze their heads into the wall now. And he brings up a great point there when he says we are 25% of the world GDP, and it's not going to be that way forever. Sadly, he's right about that. We're still the best bet on earth. There's no doubt about it. However, do you think our trend has been a positive one over the last 30 years when it comes to outputs and efficiencies? I mean, we are consumer addicted to nonsense goods. We have millions of able-bodied Americans, especially young men, 7 million of them based on the estimates who are not in the workforce. We have this European-like creep happening when it comes to labor in this country. People either not wanting to work, hey, the 4-day work week, work from home. I mean, we're not quite to the point where we take off 2 hours in the middle of the day for a nap, but in some cases, we're not far off. We are not going to have this kind of positioning on the global stage that we have today in 10, 15, 20 years if things keep trending the way they're going. So if there's ever a time to put your foot down and do something about it and say, we're done getting screwed here by you guys. Not just, Trump's talking about jobs, obviously, and trade, but what Kevin O'Leary's talking about there, too, is the intellectual property that they are stealing from American companies to benefit the Chinese Communist Party. That is a big part of this as well. And that's why he's talking about squeezing their heads against the wall, something I didn't think we'd be talking about this morning, but here we are.
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people
the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe. Can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be
but what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
There you go. That's Kevin O'Leary, and going back and forth at the end there with a CNN anchor on this. And obviously that's a question that we don't know the answer to. How much pain, when it comes to tariffs on things coming from China, will the average American be willing to put up with? What does that do to inflation? Those are not unreasonable questions. The question is this pain very short term until a deal gets struck? What exactly does it look like? How long does it take? See, you go back 3 years ago when inflation was really starting to pick up and we were approaching 40-year highs on inflation. And you knew at that point we were screwed because we had printed so much money the last few years that inflation was going to eventually skyrocket. And once that cat was out of the bag, there was nothing you could really do about it. You know, there was no way to be like, oh, dang it, can we claw back some of that money? It was like, no, that money was spent. It was way too much money, and it skyrocketed inflation. What the attempt is right now has created and will create, yes, some self-inflicted, potentially temporary pain. To what degree, we do not know. But it ends the minute that Trump gets a deal that he likes. And it also ends once Apple, for example, starts getting more of its business away from China and into India. And that's already happening. I mean, you can find multiple headlines from the last couple of days where Apple is trying to move more manufacturing out of China and into India. Would it be great to have them back in the U.S.? Sure. I don't know what exactly that looks like. I have no idea. I mean, heck, I think we're not far off from, obviously, robots doing a lot of this work anyway. But the point is, everybody's trying to do what they need to do to basically get out of China, which from a foreign policy perspective is also a massive element here that we are not thinking about and talking about in the short term, but absolutely will have long-term ramifications in terms of how the world order looks for the next generation or two. And that's something that probably is not getting enough attention because instead we're focused heavily on the Dow is down 500. And yeah, nobody wants that. But there's a larger picture and a larger goal at play here that Trump is absolutely right about when it comes to China in particular and what they have done to this country, its workers, and its intellectual property for far too long. Frank White doesn't give a damn about you. Okay? It's so clear. It's so obvious. I don't know how many more times you need the Jackson County executive to prove this to you. So Jackson County executive Frank White put out a statement yesterday because, of course, he does not ever see a TV camera or a radio microphone these days. He put out a statement yesterday in the wake of the meeting on Monday that took place with the Jackson County legislature where they voted 5-4 to go ahead and do what the Missouri State Tax Commission told them to do, which is to go out there and roll back the tax assessments to a maximum of 15% from the 2023 disastrous and, I would argue, illegal assessments that took place. So here's the statement from Frank White, your county executive, showing how much he actually cares. Quote, I commend the legislature for holding today's public hearing and for openly acknowledging the serious complications associated with implementing the State Tax Commission's order. For the first time, a public body has recognized what we've long known, that this is not about tax savings, but about shifting the burden onto others. If implemented, this would likely result in the highest tax bills in Jackson County's history. While this ordinance may not affect the legal outcome, it reflects the kind of serious discussions that this issue demands. The consequences are real, and we must take them seriously. And here's the line that matters. I will review the ordinance carefully and take appropriate action moving forward. In the letter, White reaffirmed the county's position that the state tax commission's order is unlawful and sets a concerning precedent. He also noted the state tax commission has yet to respond to key questions submitted by the county in August of last year that are essential to understanding whether the rollback can be implemented in a way that is both legal and equitable. He says, we are hopeful that the upcoming discussions with the state tax commission will help provide the clarity needed to responsibly resolve the issue. Dude, this thing is so jacked up because you guys whistled past the graveyard a year and a half ago when Jackson County residents are literally sitting there wondering whether or not they can stay in their homes. And now it's like, I will take this with the seriousness that it deserves. And don't worry, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We are weeks away from 2025 assessments rolling out. This is regarding the 2023 assessments in Jackson County. Don't worry, we're all over it. It's like the guy at work or gal at work who you know is always full of crap. I mean, they are just always blowing hot air. They're always blowing smoke. But to your face, they're like, don't worry, I'm on it. I got it. I got you. No, you don't. And I know you don't. Your results speak much louder than your words. That is Frank White to a T.
I'm picking Florida.
Yeah, right. After the fact.
Yeah.
Genius.
Thank you.
Real genius. Thank you very much for that. This is such an embarrassment to this county on so many levels. And it's what I would have expected in a statement from the county executive, because if there is a definition of aloof when it comes to local politicians, I mean, there's a lot of options, I'm sad to say. But Frank White's got to take the cake right now. You have thousands of your own citizens wondering whether or not they can afford to live in their homes. The state tax commission says you got to do this. And he basically kicks the can down the road and says, well, I'm waiting for some answers from you guys from last August. And don't worry, I'm taking this with extreme seriousness and we'll have an answer to you sometime soon. No, you won't. No, you won't. You know what you want to do. You know how you want to respond, and you're not being honest with the people. But that's nothing new for this administration. That's why that recall effort can't come here soon enough. You got to get on that if you haven't yet in Jackson County. Now, speaking of homes and housing and Jackson County politicians, let's go to Emmanuel Cleaver here for a second, shall we? Yeah.
You mustard moo.
Here he is, Emmanuel Cleaver, putting up a video yesterday with Representative Mike Flood. Mike Flood is a representative up to our north in Nebraska. And they put out a little video here. And the video is Mike Flood and Emmanuel Cleaver. And the caption reads as follows. I'll play the video for you. Two of America's largest housing programs have not been reauthorized since the 1990s. They write here, Representative Cleaver and Representative Flood are taking input on what their futures should look like. So let's, shall we take a listen to what these two gentlemen have to say? Here we go. Where is it? I'm looking at it here. There we go. All right, here we go.
I'm Mike Flood, chairman of the Housing and Insurance Subcommittee in the House of Representatives.
And I'm Emmanuel Cleaver, ranking member of the Housing and Insurance Subcommittee.
I'm a Republican.
And I'm a Democrat.
And we're working across party lines on key issues that are important nationwide, reducing housing costs and building more housing supply.
Rising housing costs are a big problem, and there are no silver bullets. But we have found a good place to start our collaboration with the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Home Partnership Program and the Community Development Block Grant programs.
These two programs have not been reauthorized by Congress since the 1990s. It's well past time for them to be updated and reformed to ensure they're meeting the housing and infrastructure challenges of the present day.
And that's where you come in. We want to hear from you, municipalities, states, not-for-profits, other stakeholders that interact with the CDBG program and home.
We want to hear what you like about the programs, what you don't like about the programs, and if you have any ideas to make them work better.
For those that are interested, we're asking you to reach out to email either of us, monitored by both of us.
Please reach out to
I mean, how many takes did this take, Cleaver, you think? Holy cow. I mean, it's like, dude, what are we on, our 20th take here, and that's what it sounded like? Holy smokes.
Flood Cleaver at mail.house.gov with your thoughts and ideas to update these programs and make them work better.
And please, share this message with others in our community that might be interested in providing some feedback.
Our deadline for submission is April 25th. After all the feedback is submitted, we will invite a select number of commenters to Washington, D.C. to discuss their ideas in person with both of us.
We look forward to working together and working with you to update these programs for the 21st century. You mustard moo.
All right, there you go. That was the video from Emmanuel Cleaver and Mike Flood, Nebraska, and, of course, here in Kansas City. Now, here's what I find fascinating. Emmanuel Cleaver has done multiple rants and rallies against DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. But if you want to talk about reauthorizing some housing programs, real reform requires slashing of bureaucratic bloat. The Government Accountability Office found $10 billion wasted on empty federal buildings. Imagine redirecting that to housing here in Kansas City, or a portion of that, at least. Right? I mean, this is obvious stuff to do. Republican, Democrat, no brainer. Past affordable initiatives often funnel cash into administrative costs and pet projects instead of actual construction. The 2024 Festivus reports $36 million for pickleball courts. This is the kind of stuff that the government's been wasting money on. And then when you point this stuff out and say, yeah, I don't think the government should be spending money on like pickleball courts and, billions of dollars on empty federal buildings, that seems like a waste of money. That would be something that I would imagine Republicans and Democrats would come together on and say, great idea. Instead, Cleaver's out there on a regular basis giving unhinged, bizarre, nonsensical rants about Elon Musk and musty moo-moos and the whole thing, while we're literally trying to save money to spend more money, potentially, on the people. So it's like you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You guys want to figure out ways to improve housing for everyday Americans, especially those who need it the most. Okay, admirable. How much government involvement is always debatable, but admirable. You should be lauding the work of DOGE then, Congressman Cleaver, not ranting and raving against it. But of course, like a good politician, he wants to have it both ways. 913-4087-95.7. We will have Guy Benson here at 8 o'clock. Talk about his upcoming trip to Kansas City on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. And I don't know if you heard it yesterday, but of course he's a Fox News contributor. You hear him on KCMO 2 to 5 every afternoon. He had quite an admission yesterday about himself and how it ties into one of the biggest news stories of the last 2 months. I will share it with you next on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio. Guy Benson's going to be here at 8 o'clock. He is coming to Kansas City on Thursday, June 12th. We got a great event with myself, Kevin Keatsman, and yes, Fox News' Guy Benson. You can get your tickets right now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. They are on sale. We are calling it the first 147 of 47. Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States. And, of course, it'll be about almost to the day, the first 147 days for Donald Trump's second term in office. And I think there'll be a few things to talk about. My gosh, we're not even 3 months into this thing. And think about all the storylines coming out of the last 2.5 months or so in this country. It's wild. So yesterday, Guy Benson was, of course, hosting his national show here on KCMO from 2 to 5. And he shared this story that I was not aware of. But it was this clip of a lady named Grisa Martinez Rosas. And she was at a rally the other day, and she bragged about being here as an undocumented person. And I want to share that clip and then share with you what Guy Benson had to say about it, because I thought it was very telling and spot on.
My name is Grisa Martinez
She is the head of the group United We Dream. And as you heard her say there this past weekend at a hands-off rally, I'm an immigrant, I'm undocumented, I'm unafraid, queer, and unashamed. Some in the Democratic Party probably think she should be the next Democratic presidential nominee based on those qualifications, but I digress. So Guy Benson shared this clip yesterday. It was the first time I heard it. And then he made an admission about himself and his views on this issue and how he has been radicalized, his words on the issue, over the last couple of years by what Joe Biden did during his time in office and the mess that has been created after Biden's policies. Here he is.
And I bet you some of you can relate to this. For a long time, I was what you might call a squish on immigration. I've said this before. Right? For years, I was never pro-illegal immigration, right? I was like, let's control the border, let's build the wall, let's get control of the flow into this country. But for some of the people who are here and they've been paying taxes and they're law-abiding, if they were brought here as kids, the dreamers, like maybe we can have some sort of path to legal status. And ideally, one day I would get back to that point. But we're nowhere near that point. I was radicalized over the last 4 years. 10 million illegal border crossings, this insane sanctuary policy stuff, it's radicalized me. I'm like, no, we have to stop the bleeding, which Trump has almost completely done already, and then reverse the tide in a meaningful way before we even start a conversation about any paths to legal anything, in my view.
He nailed it, and he admitted something that a lot of people in his shoes will not admit. I used to be, as he called himself, a squish on this issue. And the last 4 years, and the absurdity of the last 4 years on the border in particular, radicalized him. And it's great. Listen, the best thing that those of us in a chair like this can do is take the time to admit when we're wrong on something. It's like this tariff stuff. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm backing the president on this. But if it's starting to fail, I mean, we're all going to have to admit it at some point. We're not there yet. But if it does happen, okay, we'll admit that. But for Guy Benson to say, yeah, you know what? I was a squish. And then basically Joe Biden went so far to the left on this issue, it radicalized me. And now you've got Grisha Martinez Rosas, who's out there saying, yeah, I'm here. I'm undocumented in this country. And just so you know, she also removed her X account. She deactivated it after bragging about being an illegal. So do with that what you want, but these are fascinating times. Dow futures are down 1,000 points with the markets opening up in 1 hour. Coming up next, a once famous musician is demanding something out of you. I'll tell you what that is next. Guess that artist. I wouldn't be able to do it unless I knew, of course, where the show was going. There was one or two songs that Moby had back in maybe the late 90s that got some radio play. I couldn't tell you what they were. I asked Mark and John, and we were all like, I don't know, it's Moby. But Moby wants an apology, okay? He wants an apology from you, the Donald Trump voter. He's demanding it. He just wants you to go out there and admit that you were wrong. Here's a very emotional Moby on his social media demanding that you just kind of admit you screwed the whole thing up, okay? It's fine. Just tell Moby you're wrong.
So, for the people who voted for Trump or have supported Trump, can you finally just admit you were wrong? Trump has spent his entire life bankrupting businesses, and now, surprise, surprise, he's bankrupting the United States. So look, we can move on, but if you supported Trump or voted for him, just please, finally, now, just admit you were wrong.
Just do it. Just admit you were wrong. He's bankrupting the United States. Does Moby know that Trump walked into the White House with $36 trillion in debt? Do you think like Moby knows that if we're talking about, things like bankrupting a country, we're well past that point? I don't think he does, because nobody in their right, like, of all the things you might want to criticize the president for right now. It's your prerogative. It's America. Do what you want. But of all the things that you want to criticize him for right now, saying that Donald Trump has single-handedly bankrupted the United States is just emotion. It's not knowing anything about what the country's been through, how we got here, what the markets actually mean when it comes to the solvency of the country. It just doesn't make any sense. He sounds exactly like he looks, which is a strung-out, washed-up musician. And take a
You're
guess.
using that word loosely, musician.
I am.
He's a DJ.
Yeah. Do you know his real name, by the way?
No, I was going to look it up. And go, I can't remember. I know he had one song that we played a little bit.
All right. Take Mark, do you know his real name by chance?
Devin.
Good guess. Not the answer. His name is Richard Melville Hall. And I guess if my name was Dick Hall, I would also change my name to Moby. The only way that you change your name to Moby is if your real name is Dick Melville Hall. Suddenly, Moby doesn't sound too bad now, does it? But you tell me. You ready to give Moby that apology? You ready?
It's kind of funny, though. Moby Dick was a famous book, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Of course.
Maybe he was playing off his own name a little bit.
I don't know what he was going for there, but Richard Dick Moby Melville Hall, who no one's really heard from over the last, I don't know. Maybe I'm in my own bubble, but I can't tell you the last time I thought about or heard from Moby, of all people.
I found the one that I actually remembered.
Oh, you did? All right, save it for me. I don't want to hear too much of Dick Hall right now. 913-408-7957. That's our text line and our studio line here on KCMO. But you tell me. You ready to give Moby that apology that he absolutely demands? I'm not sitting here for it. I'm not interested in that because it was just like he's trying to make an, I think, honest plea, but he's doing it with just emotion. There's no facts behind it. He's bankrupting the country. It's fine. We can move on if you supported him. You just have to finally admit that you were wrong, says Moby. And I'm here to say this much, too. The guy's got neck tattoos. Neck tattoos do not age well, okay? Especially on skinny little white guys. They just don't. They don't look good. They don't age well. All right, play me some Moby there, Mark, before I decide to move on from Dick Hall. What do you got for me? Oh, yeah, okay, yes. What's this song called?
South Side, featuring Nelly Furtado. So it had to have the...
It had to have somebody else in it. Okay, so this was what, maybe 99, 2000?
Yeah.
Nelly Furtado. There's another name I haven't heard in a long time. So, all right, what year was it? 2000. All right, that makes sense. Now we're cooking here. That's the one Moby song I remember from my youth, going back 25 years now, John.
I couldn't remember if he did the one that had Christopher Walken in the video.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know that one?
No.
That's a weird one. I'm trying to find it here real quick.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was Moby, but that could be somebody else.
Well, now we're going down the deep dive of Moby. Yeah, okay. Well, you know what, Moby? Pound sand, buddy. That's all I got for you. Have a great day.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. 913-408-7957. Now, speaking of singing, we had more singing going on Capitol Hill yesterday. I regret to inform you that Bernie Sanders supporters are singing on Capitol Hill. Bernie did himself a little rally yesterday. It was raise the wage. You know what they're going for now? They're going for $17 an hour. Wait, what happened to 15? Oh, you mean the government printing money doesn't just create a utopia for all people when you artificially print money and artificially increase wages? Now, all of a sudden, we need $17 an hour to live. Why is it not 20? We were at 15. We're at 17. When's it going? Make it 25, Bernie. Go for the gold, baby. So there's a group of about 20 people with the SEIU. And, if you don't know the SEIU, that is just a big union, Service Employees International Union. They got it looked like about 20 folks out there with Bernie Sanders this week there on Capitol Hill. And they decided to do a little singing, and here's what it sounded like.
Who we are, so we tell them, we are the union, we are the union.
Misty Moo Moo.
Way to go, Mark.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, the people are fired up everywhere we go.
My sister started cheerleading when she was like 9 or 10 at the Y for the team. That was one of their days. We are the Bulldogs. I was like, come on.
Oh, my
They're
gosh.
using like junior high chants and all kinds of stuff.
I'm not worth your McDonald's money.
Come on. That's right. No way. No, you're not. So why is it that when these individuals are not in power, they decide the right idea and the right thing to do to bring people back is to figure out a way to sing? This is not the first time that we have seen these folks sing at a rally. You have that as an example this week. You had this from a few weeks ago, another, anti-Trump rally that was taking place. I think this one was somewhere up in the Northeast. But, I mean, it was one of the most cringy songs you could ever possibly hear. And once again, what do you have? For the most part, these are not like young people who are really fired up. This is not Occupy Wall Street from 2008, 2009. It's mostly washed up hippies is what it appears to be. I mean, like the vast majority of the people that are at the rally of the song I just played and the one I'm about to play are senior citizens. I'm not knocking a senior citizen here, but this is not like a fired up, youthful, energetic group of people who are out there protesting in the streets right now. It's just not.
Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Everybody.
We'll fight against Doge. We'll fight Elon Musk. No Elon's kept within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk.
Hey!
Which side are you on?
This fabulous recording can be yours. Recorded live at John Knox Village. Right.
Oh, that was in D.C. in mid-February. Which side are you on? Everybody now. Which side are you on? Well, should we cut our own single at some point here on KCMO? Mark's a great singer.
Can't be any worse than anybody.
No,
right?
no worse than that.
We have a low bar on this show anyway.
Very low. Absolutely. And Mark can be the lead singer. He sings at his church band.
Knows with BLM.
That's right.
All right, Clay.
Little
Special Clay Chastain appearance.
We will have Clay Chastain. We can feature him on one song on the album. How's that sound?
We may have to call in our friends John in Lewisburg.
Yeah.
Rhonda in St. Joe is a lyricist. We may have to collaborate here. That's the way they do it now with country songs. Got about 10 people that write those things anyway.
That's right.
So we might as well enlist everyone.
A lot of collabs that are hot songs right now. So we might just have to get ourselves in the mix a little bit here. Wow. 7:45. Good morning. We are 1 hour away from giving away, speaking of artists, Kid Rock tickets. Oh, no. That's next week. I'm sorry.
Oh, let that cat out of the bag.
Yeah, well, next week we got Kid Rock tickets for you. This week we got Alabama and Lee Greenwood tickets for you. That is coming up at 8:45. Next week we got Kid Rock. But this week it's Alabama, Lee Greenwood. They're going to be at Azura Amphitheater coming up on Friday, May 23rd. So do not miss that on KCMO. Guy Benson just after 8 o'clock on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are monitoring the markets this morning. Dow futures off another 750 points. Markets will open up in 45 minutes. And, there's more concern after China says they are going to impose an 85% tariff on U.S. goods coming into their country. So there are some meetings scheduled for today between the administration and countries around the world trying to cut trade deals. So as soon as we have more on that, as the morning rolls along, we'll get it to you on KCMO Talk Radio. I think you missed the memo, Mark. I said no more Moby on the show. All right, we're done with Moby.
Oh.
Yeah. No, we didn't want more Moby. We wanted less Moby, like no Moby ever again. That was the plan here.
That makes sense.
All right, next time.
Jay called in to help me. My guy was Fatboy Slim, the video I was talking about, Christopher Walken. So what does Fatboy Slim think about Trump voters? Yeah. That's what we need to know, right?
Let's get another washed-up guy from the late 90s to give an opinion
Paul
on...
Oakenfeld?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Ricky Martin, anybody? Enrique Iglesias? I mean, can we go on down the list?
William Hung.
Yeah. Where is old Will? What's he up to these days? My gosh. 7:52. Good morning. The markets open up in about 38 minutes. They will open up in the red once again this morning. And the news from the overnight hours is that, of course, the U.S. is getting set to hit China with a 104% tariff. China announcing this morning that they are raising levies on U.S. imports to 84%. So that is bringing, of course, another rocky day and roller coaster day to the markets. 913-408-7957. Mike's in Olathe. Go ahead, Mike. You're on KCMO.
All right. This is an old washed-up guy born the same year as John, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Here we go. There's three things, and then there's one big point. The first thing, the $17 an hour thing, that's why In-N-Out left California and went to Nashville. The second thing, Moby Dick was written by Herman Melville, so there's your Melville connection. That's the English teacher in me coming out. And then I was in Salt Lake City for 4 days, and I saw the protests. There was only about 500 people up on near the Capitol there in Salt Lake. But I was thinking, why won't the great Donald, the communicator, let's get a fireside chat. Let's get out here and let's talk to the nation for 15 minutes and give them an update. Give them the why, because half of America is losing their minds with a hands-off thing when everything he's doing is helping them, but they don't know and they don't want to know and they're paid and all the other crap. But enough people are being affected by the message that's overwhelming everything. He needs to step in and go, here's where we're at, here's what we're doing. I've only been here 11 weeks now. I'm going to get this done. We're going to go for a period of time. We're going to make this work. Trust me on this. Here's my reasoning. Here's what we're doing. Talk to us and let us know. The fireside chat over the airwaves, and everybody will cover it. And if they don't, that's too bad because no one will watch their channel. They'll watch this message. Everybody will. And he can just do it. And then every month at a certain time, here's where we're at. Here's the status. Here's where we're doing it. And here's what it looks like. Just tell us what's going on. Tell the whole country, because I believe it's going to work. But it's only been 11 weeks. And like this washed-up singer, he's getting everybody regret, whatever. Bull crap. We had 4 years of this crap. He's back for a reason. Talk to us, man. Just get out there and speak to the country.
See, here's where I think I see what you're saying there, Mike. I actually think the administration is sending a lot of the right people on TV. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. I mean, you got Larry Kudlow out there. There's a lot of people saying the right thing. I don't think that Trump talking more about this is actually going to help, because I'm not convinced that with the regular folks, he's getting hurt politically by this right now. I mean,
I agree with that. I think you're exactly right. I know, but these other guys are on like Face the Nation and Good Morning or whatever. I think what we use those guys then. This is have somebody just give us an update. And I mean, I know that you're right. The people that are voting for him are probably we're more excited now than ever. And the folks that aren't are rallying because of who he is and what and him and just for a reason. Mm-hmm. But I'm just I do believe that if some people are listening, and those that are being affected, some are being affected by it, and they want to be caught up in it. I just think at least maybe just an overview, because some people I don't think understand the real detail of the thing, because it's going to work.
Well, here's the thing. I just think that media right now is way too fragmented for Trump to sit there and do a fireside chat on radio, TV. You're in a world right now where people are going to believe what they want to believe. And in the end, this thing is going to play out. And as Bill O'Reilly said this morning, it's either going to be a colossal failure that they'll have to reverse, or Trump ends up on Mount Rushmore. I literally think it's that extreme on either end. And the vast majority of people who voted for him have his back right now. And if extreme pain does come, then he will be forced to tweak the plans here. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's a messaging problem right now. I mean, if there's some new polling that comes out that shows him magically suddenly 20 points underwater, then that changes the conversation. I haven't seen that yet. And remember, the hysterics on Wall Street, listen, a lot of us obviously have investments, 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts, whatever it might be. You don't want to see them down. You don't. But the question you got to ask yourself is, do we have major problems and cracks in the economy today, or is this just selling on Wall Street tied to fears over the future of what tariffs may mean for the economy globally? And right now it appears to be just the latter. In which case, you hold on to your hat. And as Dave Ramsey has said, you know what? The only place you put yourself in danger on a roller coaster is if you try to jump off while it's moving. Don't try to jump off while it's moving. And that's what some people are doing right now because they're motivated by emotion. This is well worth a listen this morning as we are minutes away from the markets once again opening up, likely in the red. Dave Ramsey, he is on weeknights here on KCMO, was on his show yesterday and calming people down on the market hysteria. Here's what he said.
News people are melting down. The market's down. Well, over the last 2 years, it's still net up 80%.
Let's not forget that.
Did you hear any headlines going, "You're so rich, you can't breathe"? Nobody said that.
Nobody did.
You know, what if they were as enthusiastic about reporting prosperity as they were a temporary dip in the market? So here's the rule, boys and girls. The definition of investor is you are thinking long-term. If you have a long-term mentality and the stock market goes down, those of us that have been investing in the market steadily for 30 or 40 years, not 30 or 40 minutes, we smile when it goes down and buy more. It's on sale. Not, I'm going to lose everything. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Take a dadgum chill pill. Seriously. Do I know how much it's going to fall under the Trump tariff thing, whatever the flip you want to call this thing is he's doing right now? I can't tell. But aside from all that, doesn't matter. 100% chance that the American economy is not going to crumble over this. 100% chance. So 100% chance that a year from now we're going to be sitting here smiling, those of us that did not take out our money. The only person that gets hurt on a roller coaster are those that jump off in the middle. Keep your hands inside the ride at all times, boys and girls, and wait for the coaster to come to a stop. And you will be just fine.
That was Dave Ramsey yesterday here on KCMO. And he's absolutely right. This whole thing is obviously largely being used by people who are upset that Trump won in the first place and don't want him to be president and want to see their political party, their preferred political party, gain back some semblance of power in D.C. It's all political posturing is what this is. That's it. And there's no doubt that Trump's taken a risk. There's a reason that other presidents and other politicians in the House and the Senate haven't proposed something like this because, yes, it is high risk. It also is high reward. Resetting that relationship with China in particular and resetting the world's relationship with China is a must. Unless you want to be speaking Chinese in, 40 years when they rule the world, which a lot of us are really not interested in doing or being a part of. Now, you may not be around then. I plan on being around then, knock on wood. So, I'm not really looking forward to doing that. And that's what the bigger picture is here, resetting that relationship, not just between the U.S. and China, but the world and China. It's broken. They're cheaters. Their government is scumbags in how they have gone about undercutting us, stealing our intellectual property in the process, having slave labor, and they're betting that the United States doesn't have the backbone to stomach some of the pain short term that may ensue from this. Because no politician has wanted to. No politician has had the cojones to try to do this because they're all worried about what? Their own power, their next election, their own fortunes. Let's not forget that as well. How many of these people walk into office with a net worth of $200,000? By the time they walk out, it's worth $20 million on a $175,000 salary. That's Democrats and Republicans, I'll add, by the way, as well. You got someone who's finally saying this is BS. This country has gotten screwed for too long. Let's try to do something about it. At the very least, maybe you don't think he's going about it the perfect way. And I don't know if he is or not. No one's tried this in our lifetimes. No one's tried this ever. But how do you not say, you know what? Deep down, I do respect it. I do respect the intended goal here. And then you got Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank fame, Mr. Wonderful, saying, you know what, Trump's not even close to where he should be on the tariffs. Forget 100%. We should go to 400.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough.
Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, on CNN last night. On the text line, fine, Pete, I can tell this is tongue-in-cheek. I will listen to billionaires like Dave Ramsey and Kevin O'Leary. No, you just keep listening to politicians who have never worked in the private sector in their lives, who have been basically bums and had no money until they got to Congress.
Easy, Pete, easy.
Yeah. And people like CNN anchors who wouldn't know an Econ 101 course if it hit them in the face. Just stick with those people. Not highly successful, self-made, yes, billionaires like Kevin O'Leary and Dave Ramsey. Definitely don't listen to them. Come on. You thought that was the own you thought it was going to be when you texted that in, please.